The state of the head coaching market in the NFL for the 2026 season is hot right now. On today's episode, we'll be talking about our thoughts on the hires that have happened, which coaches are still available, and our main topic is going to be on our bet on who we believe the next Pittsburgh Steelers head coach is going to be. For some context, gentlemen, we saw this past week the Atlanta Falcons. Not only did they, non-head coaching related, they hired Mr. Matt Ryan, former, I believe, QB for the Indianapolis Colts. They hired him as their president. And one of the first hires they made was Kevin Stefanski, two-time head coach or two-time Coach of the Year award. The Giants are in the process of hiring John Harbaugh. Jeff Hafley, formerly on the Packers, is now the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, and former New York Jets head coach, as well as former Niners defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, looks like he's going to the Tennessee Titans. We see five teams basically left available to choose who their head coach is going to be. Maybe that's six. We have the Atlanta Cardinals, Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, Cleveland Browns, Las Vegas Raiders, and Pittsburgh Steelers. Just want to share with the audience a little bit about what we have in free agency this year, even including the coaches that were hired. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott, Kevin Stefanski. If you're a general manager, you are just splooging at these fucking options. That's not even taking into consideration the quality talent outside of these coaches and the long shots, the names that have been there for decades. John Gruden and Bill Belichick you throwing in there. I mean, talk about John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott, Kevin Stefanski, John Gruden, and Bill Belichick are available to get as your next head coach. Gentlemen, what do you guys think about this? Oh, Mamba, give us your thoughts.
I think everyone's a little concerned. I think everyone's a little bit concerned, and rightfully so. You got a lot of talent in the league, and you got a lot of people playing like they shouldn't be there. You got a lot of organizations with a lot of tradition that aren't living up to it. And it's time to shake things up. It's time to shake things up, and that's exactly what's happened. Some of these fires I actually was surprised by, even though they're justified. Some of these hires I've been actually concerned by. And we can go into that in a little bit. But I think if we're really going to dig into it, D-Scatch, we want to talk about the Steelers right now because I'm ready to talk about.
No, I want to hear C-Scatch's thoughts. I know there was some C-Scatch. Which hire were you surprised by, or even which fire were you surprised by, C-Scatch?
Yeah, well, I really wish that the Colts fired Shane Steichen this year because this is an unbelievable pool of head coaches that we have ourselves here. And not making it about the Colts, but there's some teams out there that I think that have committed to their head coaches for another year, where maybe if they knew the likes of Tomlin and Harbaugh and McDermott and all these other guys were going to be available, I think they might have chosen differently, right? And I'm pretty sure there's contractual obligations. I saw an article about it, about once a team has verbally committed or has committed to a head coach, let's say like the Indianapolis Colts have with Shane Steichen, just because Mike Tomlin or Sean McDermott has come available does not mean we can go back and fire Shane Steichen and be in the running for it. So anybody that's committed to their head coach going into the next year, there's no take-backsies, D-Scatch, is what I'm trying to say. And it's going to shake up the NFL pretty big time. A lot, and the NFL's already shooken up. I mean, look who we got in the playoffs this year. You got the Patriots, who haven't been there since the dynasty. You have the Broncos, who hadn't won a playoff game since 2015. You got the Seahawks. Yeah, you got the Seahawks, who Sam Darnold again, has taken a franchise in need of a quarterback with a new head coach and has taken him to this record here. The Rams are back in action. We thought they might have been screwed after going all in for that Super Bowl with Stafford and Aaron Donald and those boys a few years ago. So I think it's going to be cool how everything shakes up here. I think there's a couple that I'd like to highlight and go into, but D-Scatch, what are you seeing around the marketplace right now? Because there's a lot of crazy things happening. I mean, as we're speaking here right now.
Right. Well, first I want to put Shane Steichen on the Keepin It Loose watch list on the hot seat going into the 2026 season. Shane Steichen, get it together. If you want to, maybe talk a little bit about what happened this past year, come on Keepin It Loose and tell us about it. In terms of where we see or maybe some of the surprises that I saw, or maybe things that I didn't like to see. I mean, it was a no-brainer. I mean, one of the things I like to say is that it's a balance, like you said, C. Scatch. I mean, if you're a team right now that maybe hasn't fired your head coach, but now you're seeing all of these nice tens in their bikinis, and the bikinis and you're in Ibiza, and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you're just going, you know what, Mike, maybe your girlfriend, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that, but I am just saying, maybe you're thinking about firing your head coach right now, and I'm wondering how those head coaches would even approach it. It'd have to be a really great brand. I mean, we're talking brands that we're seeing right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers,
Yep.
freaking a team that has only hired, I mean, like, I think like less than, I think 10 coaches, something like that. And it's
Three,
freaking three.
three, three head coaches in their entire organizational history. It's insane.
It's unbelievable. It's obviously the gold standard for any coach looking at this, is looking at the Steelers. I was a little bit surprised with the I wasn't surprised by it. I just didn't like it. I did do a bet, or I was doing a, bet on the Dolphins. Did not like to see the Jeff Hafley. I felt that he was going to go there. I would have, if I were the Dolphins GM, would have I done something a little bit differently. Very happy for the Giants. Very happy for the Falcons. I think Stefanski and Harbaugh are going to do great things for those franchises. So happy about those.
You think Stefanski is going to do great things for the Falcons?
Yeah,
You
let's
think
get
this? You
right.
think this is this is another sick hire from Arthur Blank? I mean, he had Raheem Morris, right? I mean, that was a sick hire, right? I mean, the last 4 hires that Arthur Blank has made have been complete duds, and I'm curious to see why you think Stefanski is going to be successful over there.
2 words, Ryan. In Matt Ryan,
Oh,
we trust.
oh, not about
Gentlemen,
Ryan. Let me give you 11
two-time
words.
coach of the year, Stefanski. That's why, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You put Kevin Stefanski and a new franchise with more opportunities with Matt Ryan. Maybe you do have Kirk Cousins coming back. I don't think Michael Penis Jr. is gonna, I mean, probably we'll see how that turns out, but I'm more excited about Stefanski than when he was on the Browns fucking up Shadur Sanders. I'll tell you that. I'm happy he's over there.
Yeah.
Let's bring it home real quick. Let's bring it home real quick. Because I really did dive into the Stefanski thing, because if we go back to early seasons of Keeping It Loose, what did I say I wanted to be? I wanted to be the owner of the Cleveland Browns. So this really hit home for me, and I wanted to understand, what was Stefanski doing on the Browns this whole time? They had over 11 different quarterbacks throughout that whole time. It was kind of the scapegoat. Let's point and aim and see who's doing a bad job except for me, Stefanski. Do I think that's all his fault? No. No, but I do think he did not do a great job of being a communicator with his leadership. And that just, you can't do something like that for 6 years and expect to actually be brought onto a team and they think you're going to do a good job. But let me give you the thinking that I think's behind this. Right before Stefanski was on the Browns, where was he? Minnesota Vikings. 2019. What happened in 2019? Kirko Chains, Kirko Cousins. And you remember the play to Stephon Diggs when they beat the Saints, right?
Rigged.
Oh,
Hey,
did he fall?
hey, and let
Did he
him
fall?
finish. Let him finish.
Well, so here you have who, as the veteran backup quarterback on the Falcons?
Kirk Cousins.
Kirko,
Right.
right? So do you think he's going to bring back the magic? Dude, when you stepped into an elite caliber offense with Dalvin Cook and Kirko Chains and Stephon Diggs in his prime, you think you're going to come back into that? You have a great offense, yes. But are you going to turn Michael Penix Jr. into that? I absolutely think not. I absolutely think not. You're going to freak out like that, like you did in the Browns, and you're going to put
Mhm.
Kirko in there, and he's going to look bad. You're not a
Let's
good offensive coordinator, Stefanski. I
let's
don't
put
want
it
you on the Falcons.
let's put it into perspective before we get into the Steelers. But it was a Atlanta Falcons head coaching decision. It did not surprise me. It did not surprise me that the Atlanta Falcons went and hired Kevin Stefanski. It was not like a freaking crazy thing. I would say, like, if one of these major franchises went and got a medium or in the middle of the road coach, it would be surprising. So I'm just kind of saying that I like Stefanski more on the Falcons than I do on the Browns, and I was not surprised by it, and I'm supportive of it. now.
Yeah, I get that, D-Scatch, I really do, but on keeping it loose here, we're not going for average, right? We don't need another 8-9 season from the Atlanta Falcons, right? I mean, they've done it the last 3 years while having the best player in the NFL, Bijan Robinson, while having Drake London, who I think is one of the most reliable receivers. I know he got a little injured towards the end of the year, but has been one of the more sure-handed, reliable receivers, along with Kyle Pitts, who finished at what, tight end 2 this year in fantasy. And so you have, well, hold on here. That's not the point, because Stefanski, he likes a balanced play action style offense, right? That's more run heavy dominant.
Yeah.
And the thing is okay, that's great. You know, you've got Bijan Robinson, the best running back in the league. I can see how Kyle Pitts and Drake London can be great play action role players for the Atlanta Falcons. But if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, once and for all, I'm going to go in and find somebody that is creative on his offensive scheme. And I think you saw it with the Browns. Stefanski lacks creativity in his offensive scheme. And the reason why I can back that data up is because he's had to relinquish his play calling duties several times over the last few years. So you are like, I would get it more if you're going after, even let's call it a Shane Steichen, who has that offensive scheme, that Ben Johnson-esque, that Mike McDaniel-esque, who like draws up these crazy like plays and schemes for players that are as electric as Bijan and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. And I think Stefanski's been inconsistent. He's lacked discipline. He's lacked leadership. I think it's just going to be another coach on the carousel. I wish him all the best because I love the Falcons role players. I'm done with Stefanski as a head coach for a little bit. I think he needs to get demoted back into coordinators.
I want to piggyback on that real quickly, because you brought up a great point about his lack of ability to execute on offense. They asked Matt Ryan, the guy that you're so highly touting right now, which we love Matty Ice. There's no doubt about that. But they asked him, they said, Matty Ice.
Kind of a square.
They said, okay. They said, Matty Ice, would you rather have a head coach with strong defensive capabilities or strong offensive capabilities? He says, all that matters to me is a guy of great character and great leadership. 2 responses. 1, there are plenty of guys with great character and great leadership, and they're just not head football coaches. Number 2, I don't think Stefanski showed either on the Browns. So there's your point.
Gentlemen, let's reel it in. We got a little bit too loose right now. The audience is here to listen to our head coach predictions for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All I said was one little thing, that I was just more excited for Stefanski. I did not make a bet on it. I did not research it. I did not go do these things. I just said personally, I was okay with it. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get into
fine.
it.
That's fine.
Talk about
That's
a
fine.
real franchise without 3 head coaches in their history, has been owned by the same owners for almost 100 years, right? There's some countries in the world that haven't been sovereign for 100 years. And here the Rooney family has owned it for about 100 years. My golly, Oliver might say, my golly. We're doing one thing here. We have about 20 minutes set aside for this. We want to decide on who we would bet to be Pittsburgh Steelers' next head coach. We have some prediction markets teed up. Let me just share some of the odds before we get into it. C-Scatch, I'm going to need you to prepare for this. After I'm done, I want you to dive into it, okay?
No problem. No problem. Happy to.
Chris Shula. Chris Shula is right now leading. We have about $600,000 volume on Kalshi. Chris Shula leading at 41 cents. Kalshi, as you bet, basically the 41 cents. If they win, you get $1. Basically a 2.5x if Chris Shula gets hired. The next you have Mike McCarthy. Then you have Brian Flores, Nathan Shilhase, Sean McDermott, Jesse Minter, Anthony Weaver, Kurt Signetti, Jeff Hafley now is gone. Basically, Kurt Signetti is the last one. So gentlemen, Cole, please, maybe you just lead us a little bit into this. Maybe you kind of tease us a little bit about maybe what went into your thought process before you made your ultimate decision and why.
Yeah, and what goes into my thought process every single time we're making predictions on this podcast, right? What's logical? What makes sense, right? Like I've said in the past, there is a right answer to this question. There are wrong answers and there are right answers. Wrong answer, Mike McCarthy. That is a wrong answer. If either of you guys have Mike McCarthy, wrong answer. Okay.
I have Jonnu Smith. I have
Do you
Jonnu
have,
Smith
okay. Yeah.
first, and then I have Antonio Brown. Do either of you have those on your bingo card?
I did have Jonnu on mine. I think he's going to retire after this year, and he's going to be. He might not be the head coach for the Steelers, but they're going to bring him in for something else because that guy just provides so much value. It's unbelievable. But
My God.
Anywho, you think of the Steelers, D-Scatch, you think about who they are as a franchise, right? Gritty football country over there in Pittsburgh, right? So you really want softy Mike McCarthy, Mr. I can't win playoff games? You really want showboat Mike McDaniel? Mike McDaniel's going to get kidnapped
Yeah.
if he becomes the head coach of the Steelers. Like, he's literally going to get kidnapped. They don't mess around when it comes to their head coaches. Like we said earlier, they've got 3 in the entire history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so this one's going to be important. This one's a redemption tour. And I think when you look back at all the Steelers, what are their Super Bowl teams always dominated in? Like, what's the one thing? Defense, right? Well, this year, maybe a reason why Mike Tomlin's gone, their defense was, I said it before, dog shit ass, right? I mean, their defense just was not good whatsoever. They had
Players.
TJ Watt, and they got Joey Porter, and they got Jalen Ramsey, and they were hosed after that. And so I think the Steelers lost their identity, right? And they lost it amidst all of these 9-8, 10-7 years where they barely squeeze into the playoffs. And then Mike Tomlin lost 8 playoff games now in a row. He had every right to get fired. It was ready for a new start here. Now I'll land the plane because this guy, I think, is the best defensive minded coach in the NFL right now. And what he has done to the teams, and mind you, he was on the Steelers in 2022. Okay. He was their linebacker defensive specialist kind of coordinator in 2022 before going to the Minnesota Vikings for the last 3 years and absolutely dominating on defense. I mean, they had 9 at quarterback all year and they went 9-8, right? They had Mr. Number 9 at quarterback along with guys I literally had never heard of in my entire life play quarterback, and they finished with a winning record because, again, for the 3rd year in a row, they're a top 10 defense. This head coach is Brian Flores, gentlemen. This is not that hard, okay? And this is I bet the bank on this. I bet the bank because the fit is so good. The fit is so good. He's got experience in Pittsburgh already. He's proven himself in track records recently in Minnesota for turning around that whole defense. When they had the Kirko Chains and Dalvin Cook and Stephon Diggs, they did not have a very good defense, right? And so now he's really shifted it over there with Kevin O'Connell, and they were 3rd ranked defense in 2023. 2024, they were a 2nd ranked defense. This is in regards to EPA, which is essentially a calculation that brings in 100 different statistics to tell you how effective a team is being on a specific play or per play basis. And then this last year finished 7th in points allowed, 3rd in yards allowed per game. They have just been a juggernaut on defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to find their brand, their identity again on defense. And the thing I love about Brian Flores too, he's a huge build from draft stock capital guy. He loves drafting, right? And when you look at the Dolphins today, some of the guys that are still even on there today, you had Tua there for a little while. You got Jalen Waddle. You brought in some key guys on defense when Brian Flores was the head coach for drafts. Actually drafted pretty well. Fortunately, he had the likes of Devontae Parker. He had the likes of Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh Rosen, and then Tua is a rookie, right? And he still finished with a 500 record. It's 1 game below 500 over 3 years as a head coach. If you have Ryan Fitzpatrick 1 year, Josh Rosen the next year, and then a Tua rookie the 3rd year with Devontae Parker and Myles Gaskin was their running back, right? Mike Gesicki and Devon, he had nothing to work with and still made them a 500 team. I think he's going to fit in phenomenally with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's immediately going to make them a playoff contending team. I think he's going to come in and D'Amico Ryans the shit out of this. And I can't wait. I'm excited for it.
See, Scotch, what a phenomenal pick. We're looking at Brian Flores at 25 cents. Basically, you bet 25 cents to win $1. That's a 4x. See, Scotch, you had $100 to bet on this. How much of that 100 would you put on Brian Flores being the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? And I want to ask you this question. Make your bet based on the GM and the owner making this hire and not on who you think should be the head coach of the Steelers.
I said it earlier. I'm putting the whole boat on it. I'm putting the whole boat on Brian Flores. I'm high risk, high reward over here. I've been on every Keepin' It Loose podcast, episode, whatever you want to call it. I'm full boat, all in on Brian Flores. I think it makes so much sense. I think Sean McDermott, he is not trying to rebuild a team, and the Steelers need to be rebuilt. And it needs to start with a dominating defense so that Brian Flores and the owners of the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers can start bringing in some guys through the draft on offense, maybe make a couple waiver wire pickups. But I think it's a no-brainer. I'm putting all of it on there, D-Scotch.
I mean, he's a young guy. I think he's 44, 45 years old. The Steelers do like hiring young. He is a 4-time Super Bowl champion when he worked for the New England Patriots. He also was the Miami Dolphins head coach for a couple of years before that controversy. Went to the Steelers for a year, went to the Dolphins, performed pretty well. We could probably say that the Steelers fans would probably be like, hey, this is another Mike Tomlin of sorts. Frame that how you will. Oh, Mamba, how do you feel about Saskatchew's prediction? Did you have the same prediction or something a little bit different?
Well, you know what's funny? It's not even that funny. I think Cole did such an incredible job, Cole. Round of applause, breaking that down. I mean, that was very well.
Loose. We were loose. We were
You-
loose for Saskatch. No.
Less.
You hit on everything that I think is so important that a Steelers fan would want to hear. Steelers are about grit. They're about tradition. They're about putting their nose to the grindstone, and it's about the team over the player. And that's why I think we've seen certain guys fizzle in and fizzle out of that organization so readily. And you need to bring a guy in that can create a cohesive unit. That needs to be the buy-in right now. My question about the whole Steelers situation, Brian Flores, great, great, great. My question, though, is someone very important to that team is going to be gone next year. And who's the right guy to fill that void? And I hate that you can't pick them both. But Aaron Rodgers is probably done, ladies and gentlemen. Call it how it is.
Heard it here first.
He's probably I just don't know who else you bring in. I don't know who you do because you're going to need to develop some young talent. So alongside the head coach that's going to stay there for a long time, these last few years have been very, very confusing for the Steelers after Big Ben left. How many guys have been in and out? Remember when Justin Fields played for the Steelers? Holy cow.
Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown.
Yeah, you got all
Santonio Holmes.
Yeah, that's a little bit before them, but good reference. Antonio Holmes, also former Jet.
My point is that you are missing that franchise quarterback that everyone knows can carry the team to victory. Do you get him in one season? Maybe not, right? But there's a lot of great talent out there. How do you develop him is the better question, right? How do you develop this guy and who's going to be the guy to do that? This is a long shot. It's not going to happen. But boy, oh boy, would I love to see Gruden get himself involved in that whole thing. I mean, does he need to somehow play a part in the Steelers? Because there's not one guy that quarterbacks from our generation all look up to more than John Gruden. You've seen his camps. This guy's a quarterback coach through and through. And he's a guy that can bring people together through and through. He's all about grit. So somehow, some way, he needs to get involved in there to fill the gap as well. And that comes directly after they fire John Usman.
Well, Mamba, I think everybody here would love to see John Gruden become the Steelers head coach. He's at 1 cent right now. So basically 1 to 100 odds. You bet $100, you win 100 times more than that.
Wasn't he?
You already said. What was that?
Where was he going to visit? He was in Chicago, or what was he doing?
He was just visiting Pittsburgh. They saw him in the airport.
It was Pittsburgh.
What?
Was it Pittsburgh?
He was in Pittsburgh.
No.
At one of their little private airports, and he said hi. Great things about their rookie quarterback that they got in the draft, right? But as we preface going into the segment, we're talking about who's making the bet. Oh, Mamba, you said that there's no way this is going to happen and that you're not, and that there's no way it's going to happen. So you're not going to bet on this. Who would you bet on the Steelers, the GM hiring as the next head
It's
coach?
just typical. This is just another fucking day with Mamba.
I'll
Another
bet
day with Mamba on keeping
I'll
it
bet
loose,
I'll
dude.
bet on Flores. I'll bet on Flores. I think that's convincing enough for me.
Oh,
If you wanna
look at that. Look at that. It's just like the relocation of an NFL stadium to Toronto. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I'm glad I was able to lay that one out for you.
I don't think you can convince that one any differently. I don't think you can. I don't think you want Mike McCarthy there. I don't think you want Mike
We can
McCarthy
all
there.
agree on that. We can all
Yeah.
agree
Yeah.
that's not going to be Mike McCarthy, Antonio Brown, or Jonnu Smith. We can all
That's
agree
it.
on those three not being. And now Omamba has said that John Gruden. John Gruden threw that in the mix as well. It would be
I
super freaking cool.
would throw $2 of my $100 on the Gruden grinder.
On the Gruden, you're putting two of the $100 on Grudy, and then you're putting freaking the other 98 on Brian Flores.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Cole. I mean, and it was it because C. Scott swayed you, or is that your backup pick?
No, I believe C. Scott swayed me tremendously.
Yeah,
Because
and that's what people will come watch Keeping It Loose to hear C. Scott
yeah,
fucking
no.
sway.
I'm cool to admit defeat. Certain
Yeah,
things.
no, at least no. Yeah, the first step in rehabilitation is accepting it,
That's
So,
right. That's right.
Well, just I guess to wrap things up with my pick, who I would really like to see is Marco Rubio, but it's not going to happen either, Omamba.
Guy
He's
never
played
plays
great
football.
defense. He played great defense for the United States, and I feel like he could come in and do this. He's at similar odds as John Gruden. But if I were to do a backup pick, I'd lean into my boy. And again, I'm going to come back around to this. I lean into the boy, Chris Shula, gentlemen.
Yeah, you love him. You love him.
I love Chris Shula. And I remember just doing my bet on the Tennessee Titans head coach. And I was just trying to identify who could be a great fit for them. And there was so many reasons why. And, he's a guy that has been with Sean McVay for since college, right? But not only grew up with the John Shula family, been around football his entire life, right? And having that legacy, that name behind him, but then going to the Rams, being Sean McVay's best friend, and then going to the Rams his entire career and sticking with it. Do you know what these head coaches for the Steelers all have in common? Is that they stick with it, right? They've been around they stick with them for decades, for generations sometimes. And so that is something that does cause me a little bit concerned with Brian Flores, a little bit. I'll have to be completely honest, or with Anthony Weaver, maybe some other picks, is that maybe they're a little bit too loose. As you see with the Sean McVay boys, you see Chris Shula. He'd be, I think, the youngest head coach in the NFL. We already talked about how the Steelers like to hire young head coaches. They love the defense, right? But then you're also going out and trying to find coaches to coach with you, right? I'm not saying that Brian Flores can't do that. It just seems like Chris Shula, I've watched interviews with him, all these things. He seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. It seems like when he was talking about the potential to go work as a head coach somewhere else, he was not going to go do it for just any team. He's not just going to just go to the Atlanta Falcons, right? I liked him on the Tennessee Titans because I thought that he was a new name, right? He truly is not you have these names like John Harbaugh. You have these names like freaking Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. These are freaking names that Bill Belichick, John Gruden, they have prestige that goes with the Pittsburgh Steelers name. So I just thought, hey, the Tennessee Titans, Tennessee Titans could go after him. They have the most cap space. They had a young quarterback. They're more offensive on the offensive side. But I said, hey, he's going to go recruit some offensive guys. But from what I've heard, gentlemen, it seems like Chris Shula likes the Steelers. And it seems like the Steelers like Chris Shula.
Well,
That's
okay.
kind of the report that
I'm sure they like each other. And let me just push back a little bit here. You just brought up a really good point about loyalty and how loyal and how good of a friend he is to Sean McVay. Now, they're in the middle of a sweet playoff run, right? That decision's not going to be made anytime soon. For Chris Shula to disrupt their entire mojo over there, that's just not going to happen. But teams are frantically picking head coaches right now, D-Scotch. Frantically.
the Steelers.
You
Not
saw
the Steelers.
Not the Ravens.
You saw the Hawks pull the trigger on
Not the
Stefanski like
Bills.
that. Said, "Oh my God, we need to make a decision."
These are different franchises, Chew.
Mm-hmm.
These are different
Agreed.
franchises.
You have the Tennessee Titans and the Atlanta Falcons who haven't done a
I don't think
thing forever. You have all these. You have the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bills are the three that come to mind. Those are all professional franchises that have head coaches for very long periods of time. I don't think they're going to be making a decision until after the Super Bowl's probably locked up here, honestly. I don't know when it's got to end, D-Scatch. That would be something interesting, but they're not going to jump the gun just because Chris Shula is going into the NFC Championship.
percent. And honestly, I think that they probably like it. I think that they like
Mhm.
that he's being disciplined and faithful to his team. And I think that freaking if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, you could wait till freaking the day before the season next year. And freaking, I mean, like they're gonna have so many of these head coaches, I think, are waiting to see what the Steelers do. They're gonna go down. They're gonna go, hey, who's the Steelers gonna get? Who's the Bills gonna get? Who's the freaking Ravens gonna get? And then from there, they're gonna go, oh shit. Okay, those are all gone. Now I'm gonna go work for the Raiders. I'm gonna go work for the Cardinals. I'm gonna go work for whoever. So again, I like, and also here's the thing is it's been so long since the Steelers have seen a new face on the Steelers. And I think that I don't have to point it out, right? But I think it is a completely new face with Chris Shula, a complete rebrand, but also for somebody that is young, that is loyal, that is a defensive mind. And it just seems like a Cinderella story to go, hey, I think Sean McVay could go coach the Rams for 2 decades, and Chris Shula could go coach the frickin' Steelers for 2 decades. The battle of the best friends, right? I like Chris Shula. He's at 40 cents. 41 cents right now. If I had 100, here's the thing, my confidence level on it, right? It wouldn't be as high as 100. It wouldn't be as low as 2, right? This is more of a, I would like to see it happen. I've seen the reports that it's basically that the Steelers really do like him. And I can't think of a better franchise, truly, that Chris Shula would take that would even consider this perfect opportunity for. So I think if the Steelers like him and he likes the Steelers, I don't see why it couldn't happen. We're talking maybe for Valentine's Day, Joe. In the next few weeks, we're doing a little Valentine's Day hire.
You brought that home very well at the end, Chio, because, I would like to see it too, right? It'd be a nice thing to see as well. I think the Brian Flores is a bit more realistic, but it would be very nice to see Shula do that. And I'm with you. I'm with you. I think that they both have a lot of respect for each other. And if it happens, great. It'd be a Cinderella story.
Well,
But
there's a reason why he's the favorite still, right? I mean, you've got Brian Flores and McCarthy who went in for their second interviews today, right? And tomorrow. And he's still the favorite, right? Like, and he hasn't spoken to them yet. Like, there's a clear-cut reason why he is the favorite. I genuinely do think it's going to be between those two. I think it's going to be between Flores and Shula. I think may the best man win. I think either way, the Steelers are going to make the right decision, which is Brian Flores, because, you brought up some interesting points as well, these guys, to close the loop of his, loyalty to Sean McVay. Well, the Steelers have already lost a few coaches after Mike Tomlin here. Like, Chris Shula has been by Sean McVay's side the whole time. You think he's just going to poach a bunch of coaches from him? Like, kind of dicey. Like,
I don't think that at
Chris,
all. I don't think that. No, no,
okay,
no.
because
I'm talking more about the Sean McVay mafia. I'm talking about freaking him going out and being able to hire coaches that used to work for Sean McVay. A lot of these coaches go work as head coaches or defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. A lot of them go because they're so successful in the Rams. So I think it's a way for them going like, hey, we worked under Sean McVay, had success. Now we want to go be a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, whatever it might be under Chris Shula. So again,
yep.
gentlemen, this has been a phenomenal episode of Keeping It Loose. Super excited to have explored the NFL head coach 2026 carousel. We talked a lot about Cole's pick for Brian Flores. We had Mamba coming in here hot with John Gruden, but ultimately also putting some Skrillas, we like to call it, on Brian Flores. And D-Scash switching it up a little bit, going with his favorite, Chris Shula. Gentlemen, we will see you again next week on Keeping It Loose.